Ricky Marin's story begins in the glare of London's tabloid spotlight, where he once reigned as a king among paparazzi. For nearly 2 decades, his Canon telephoto lens captured the unguarded moments of the rich and famous, turning fleeting scandals into front-page gold. A single shot of a duchess entangled with her bodyguard fetched him six figures, while a tearful celebrity breakdown outside a rehab clinic paid for his sleek Chelsea flat. Photo editors once clamored for his calls at all hours, desperate for the explosive images that made him both feared and envied. In his prime, Ricky was unstoppable, a predator in the jungle of celebrity journalism, his reputation built on the ruins of others' privacy. But the world shifted beneath him. By April 2025, at 43 years old, Ricky found himself a relic of a fading era. Smartphones turned every bystander into a photographer. Social media stripped away the exclusivity of scandal, and web platforms slashed freelance rates while demanding ever more sensational content. Three younger, hungrier photographers had outscooped him on major stories, leaving him looking slow and out of touch. His editor at the Daily Expose, once eager for anything bearing his byline, now sent back his submissions with stinging critiques, lacking impact, missing the moment. Behind his back, peers snickered at his dinosaur equipment and old-school tactics, whispering that Ricky was finished. His rent lagged 2 months behind, his once top-tier gear now outdated, and the publications that paid him handsomely now offered pennies, citing market conditions. Desperation gnawed at him, his back pressed against the wall of irrelevance. Ricky needed a spectacular shot to reclaim his place, a need that drove him to the fateful morning at Buckingham Palace, where his unraveling would take center stage. The morning air buzzed with anticipation as Ricky Marin stood among a throng of photographers outside Buckingham Palace, his weathered Canon gripped like a lifeline. Once a titan of London's tabloid scene, he now teetered on the edge of obscurity, his career hinging on a single, career-saving shot. Word had crackled through the press pack. A royal motorcade was approaching, possibly carrying an American diplomat, an unscheduled guest whose presence could ignite headlines amid tense US-UK relations. For Ricky, this was no mere photo op. It was redemption, a chance to silence the snickers of younger rivals who'd claimed the prime spots with their newer gear. But one obstacle stood in his way. Guard Bramwell Carriage, a Queen's Guard in scarlet and black, his bearskin cap and ceremonial rifle marking him as an immovable fixture at his post. To Ricky, he was just a bloody toy soldier, a decorative nuisance blocking the perfect angle. Ignoring the palace liaison's sharp warnings, "Get back behind the line," he edged closer, his coffee-stained press pass dangling like a faded badge of honor. The motorcade's polished black cars rolled into view, diplomatic flags snapping in the breeze, and time compressed into seconds. Ricky's experienced eye calculated the sun's angle, the crowd's chaos, and his compromised position. Frustration boiled over as the second car, the one likely carrying the diplomat, neared the entrance. "Just bloody move," he growled under his breath, desperation drowning out reason. Years of declining fortunes, technological upheaval, and professional humiliation fused into a reckless spark. With the practiced speed that had once made him London's most feared paparazzo, Ricky lunged, driving his shoulder into guard carriage with enough force to jolt him from his stance. A collective gasp erupted from the crowd. Tourists froze, phones midair. Fellow photographers lowered their lenses in disbelief. Oblivious to the line he'd crossed, Ricky seized his moment, his camera whirring in rapid fire, capturing the diplomat's startled expression as he emerged. "Got you," he whispered, a grim smile breaking across his face. The shots were perfect, intimate, unguarded, everything his editor demanded. But as the palace grounds fell silent, Ricky's fleeting victory stood on the precipice of a reckoning he hadn't foreseen. Amid the chaos of Ricky Marin's reckless shove at Buckingham Palace, Guard Bramwell Carriage stood. As more than just a ceremonial figure, he was a living testament to a legacy Ricky had dismissed as mere pageantry. To the desperate paparazzo, Carriage was a toy soldier, a mannequin in a fancy uniform obstructing his shot. But beneath the scarlet tunic, Gleaming brass buttons and towering bearskin cap lay the reality of Sergeant Bramwell Carriage, Grenadier Guards, an 8-year veteran of Britain's armed forces whose service painted a far different picture. 2 tours in Afghanistan's treacherous Helmand province and one in Iraq had scarred his body and steeled his resolve. A jagged mark along his left shoulder blade, a souvenir from a night ambush near Kandahar, whispered of a firefight where 3 comrades didn't return. The faint stiffness in his right knee, a lingering echo of an IED explosion during a routine patrol, spoke of survival against odds most civilians couldn't fathom. Tourists saw only the stillness of his post, but Carriage's discipline was forged in the dust of forward operating bases, where standing motionless meant evading enemy eyes during 18-hour surveillance missions. That same focus held him steady now, under the summer heat and the encroaching lens of an aggressive photographer. When Captain Montgomery called for his service record, Carriage's voice cut through the tension with military precision. "Sergeant Bramwell Carriage, sir. Grenadier Guards. Specialized reconnaissance and close protection duties with special operations units in classified deployments." The recitation shattered Ricky's flippant mockery, revealing a warrior whose ceremonial role was but one facet of active duty. The bearskin cap, far from a fancy hat, traced its origins to the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, where the Grenadier Guards broke Napoleon's elite Imperial Guard, a battle honor worn with pride for over 2 centuries. While Ricky chased fleeting headlines, Carriage carried a tradition etched in blood and sacrifice, his uniform a tapestry of history that stretched back to 1656. This was no tourist attraction, but a soldier whose brothers in arms still face combat zones worldwide. In that moment, the gulf between Ricky's cynicism and Carriage's quiet valor became undeniable, a revelation that would soon unravel the photographer's fragile triumph. The air at Buckingham Palace thickened with stunned silence after Ricky Mearns shoved guard Bramwell Carriage, his camera still clicking as the crowd reeled in disbelief. His fleeting triumph, those perfect shots of the American diplomat, crumbled as the consequences unfurled with unrelenting force. Voices of outrage pierced the hush, led by Jeffrey, an elderly veteran whose campaign medals glinted in the morning sun. "In all my years," he declared, his tone heavy with indignation, "I've never witnessed such a disgraceful display of disrespect to the Queen's Guard." Security closed in, radios crackling with urgency, but it was Guard Carriage's response that shifted the moment from chaos to reckoning. With remarkable discipline, he resumed his post, his jaw set harder, his stillness now laced with the coiled tension of a combat soldier. Captain Montgomery, the Guard commander, arrived, his presence commanding respect from veterans and onlookers alike. When Ricky scoffed, "There's ceremonial for tourists," Montgomery granted Carriage permission to break his rare ceremonial stance, an act so extraordinary it rippled shock through those who understood its weight. With a single deliberate stamp of his boot, Carriage pivoted to face Ricky, his voice resonating with parade ground authority. "I am Sergeant Bramwell Carriage of the Grenadier Guards. Before this post, I served 2 tours in Afghanistan's Helmand province and 1 in Iraq. My uniform is not a costume. My duty is not a performance." He spoke of the bearskin cap, earned at Waterloo in 1815, and the scarlet tunic, worn since 1656, each detail a thread in a tapestry of sacrifice. He named fallen comrades Lance Corporal Edward Hayes, lost to an IED last month, and recounted carrying Private Thomas Wilson 2 miles through an ambush. The crowd fell silent, tourists and photographers alike transfixed by this glimpse behind the ceremonial veil. Ricky's bravado withered under Carriage's steady gaze, his camera hanging limp as the weight of his assault on a combat veteran sank in. "You demonstrated profound disrespect," Carriage said, his educational tone cutting deeper than anger ever could. "Not just to me, but to every soldier in this uniform." In that confrontation, Ricky's actions were laid bare, setting the stage for a fall from which there'd be no recovery. Ricky Mearns' moment of triumph, snapping those coveted shots of the American diplomat, evaporated as swiftly as it had come, replaced by a downfall that echoed far beyond the palace gates. The adrenaline still coursing through him after shoving guard Bramwell Carriage faded under the weight of what followed. Security officers, their faces stern, moved in with purpose, and Captain Montgomery's voice carried the finality of judgment. Ricky's press credentials were permanently revoked from all royal residences and events. No appeal, no negotiation, just the cold reality that the royal beat, his lifeline for 20 years, was gone. The Royal Press Association would receive a detailed report, leaving his broader media accreditation hanging by a thread, a decision that could blacklist him industry-wide. "I didn't understand," he stammered, the swagger stripped from his voice as he faced Carriage's unflinching recounting of combat tours and fallen comrades. His earlier defiance, "You've got no legal right to confiscate my property," rang hollow against the officer's retort. "That was an active duty soldier you assaulted." The photos, once his ticket back to relevance, now symbolized not victory, but a shameful breach of respect. As security escorted him toward the gates, the younger photographers who'd once mocked his dinosaur gear stepped forward, not to gloat, but to apologize to Carriage on behalf of their trade, a public disavowal that cemented Ricky's isolation. No reputable outlet would touch him now. The stench of his actions would cling to any publication, risking royal access. His pause by Carriage's post, "I truly didn't understand what the uniform represented," was met with silence, the guard's duty already fulfilled in his measured rebuke. The walk of shame through the palace grounds marked the end of a career built on pushing boundaries, now undone by crossing one too far. The headlines he'd chased would feature Buckingham Palace that day, but not his images. They'd tell of Carriage's dignity, not Ricky's desperation. At 43, with rent unpaid and his reputation in tatters, Ricky Marin became a cautionary tale. His fall a stark lesson in the cost of disrespecting a tradition he'd never bothered to comprehend. The paparazzo who once ruled London's tabloids was finished, his legacy reduced to a single, reckless shove. The incident at Buckingham Palace, sparked by Ricky Marin's brazen shove of guard Bramwell Carriage, did more than end a paparazzo's career. It reshaped the perceptions of everyone present, turning a routine photo op into a profound lesson in respect and tradition. As Ricky's camera clicked in defiance, the crowd's initial shock gave way to a deeper understanding, catalyzed by Carriage's authorized address. His words detailing tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, the bearskin cap's origin at Waterloo, and the scarlet tunic's centuries-old legacy pierced the casual curiosity of tourists who'd arrived expecting mere pageantry. American visitors, moments earlier posing for light-hearted selfies, straightened instinctively, their postures mirroring the reverence they might show at a Memorial Day parade. A Japanese tour group, once chattering excitedly, fell into hushed silence, their guide whispering translations of Carriage's recounting of fallen comrades like Lance Corporal Edward Hayes. Even restless children stilled, wide-eyed, sensing the gravity of a moment that transcended their usual distractions. The veterans in the crowd, like Jeffrey and his silver-haired companion, nodded knowingly, their campaign medals a quiet testament to the shared ethos Carriage embodied. When younger photographers stepped forward to apologize to Carriage, disowning Ricky's actions, it signaled a shift within the press pack, a recognition that their craft could honor, not just exploit, the institutions they covered. Parents began explaining to their kids, "These aren't just statues, they're real soldiers," their voices carrying a newfound respect as they stepped back from the barriers they'd once crowded. What began as a quest for a scandalous headline morphed into a narrative of duty, sacrifice, and resilience, captured not in Ricky's illicit shots but in images of Carriage's disciplined stance that graced the next day's front pages. Tourists who'd planned to snap quick souvenirs left with something weightier, a glimpse into the warrior spirit behind the ceremonial facade, a reminder of the human cost woven into every brass button and stripe. The palace grounds, briefly a stage for Ricky's desperation, became a classroom where tradition reclaimed its voice, leaving onlookers with a question to ponder. Would they have seen past the uniform? For many, the answer shifted that day, as casual fascination deepened into genuine appreciation for the guards who stand as more than symbols, but as sentinels of a living history. As we age, we come to see that respect isn't just politeness. It's a recognition of the unseen sacrifices others carry. Ricky Marin's downfall at Buckingham Palace teaches us this in stark terms. A man chasing fleeting glory shoved a guard he dismissed as a toy soldier, only to learn guard carriage was a combat veteran, his uniform a badge of battles fought and comrades lost. For those of us over 50, it's a reminder to look beyond the surface. Whether it's a soldier's post or a neighbor's quiet strength, and honor the stories etched beneath. Traditions, like the Grenadier Guard's bearskin cap, aren't mere relics. They're threads of courage woven through time, deserving our reverence. Ricky's ambition blinded him, costing him a career, a lesson that pride and haste can unravel what years built. In our own lives, this calls us to pause, to value discipline over impulse, and to teach our grandchildren that true worth lies not in what we take, but in what we respect. Age brings clarity. The smallest act of disregard can echo louder than we intend, while a moment of understanding can bridge generations.